Alright, Schlockmeister fans, we're going to watch something called The Occult Experience featuring Anton LaVey. Let's watch.
This is a journey back to the roots of paganism, to mystical belief and superstition.
Here we see some Wiccans.
Witchcraft is known to its followers as Wicca, the craft of the wise. Members meet in small groups called covens. They are led by a high priestess who represents Mother Nature and the goddess of the moon.
And this is the Temple of Set, an offset of Satanism.
Does not seek that kind of submergence of the self. We do not seek to have our decisions and our morality approved or validated by any higher god or being. We take responsibility into ourselves.
The Temple of Set emerged from the Church of Satan, founded in the mid-60s by Anton LaVey, a one-time lion tamer and carnival performer, and the Church of Satan's self-appointed makers.
Well, it occurred to me for many, many years that there was a large gray area between psychiatry and religion that was untapped, and no religion had ever been based on man's carnal needs or his fleshly pursuits. All religions are based on abstinence rather than indulgence.
Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. The very nature of Satan is such that he is a liar, and that he endeavours to convey something which is not true. And I think people who are deceived into being caught up in that are placing themselves in a very dangerous position.
We decided
Here we see a group of white witches, good witches.
Activated as a sacred place. So this ceremony is for dedicating the mound as an earth healing temple.
Here we see an old man in his 70s who is a magician.
And afterwards, sniffing, feels holes in the ground to find out where bodies are buried. I help.
It is the day of the winter solstice, and Francis is led away to be initiated. Like a traditional Celtic warrior, he will have to pass through the ordeal of the four elements: earth, water, air, and fire.
To fulfill this quest, there's a lot of nakedness running through the woods. But if he completes it, he'll become a witch. Or I guess a warlock in his case. He succeeded, though.
As the Athame is to the male, so the cup is to the female, and conjoined they bring blessedness.
Believe in witchcraft and magic and all those sorts of things? No, I can't really say I do. I really don't think that witches and witchcraft exists anymore these days. What about things like witchcraft? Do you think that's an evil thing that people should stay clear of?
No, I don't, not at all. I believe in witchcraft and Antichrist and all that.
I think witchcraft, to begin with, is not Christian.
Here's the equivalent of a Christian christening.
Protection of the gods and goddesses that we worship, but there is no commitment.
We are met in this circle, sacred circle, to ask the blessings of the mighty God and Goddess.
And a yeehaw!
To the occult as it is possible to be.
These are Christians.
They meet each week at the Sydney home of Gary and Ruth Pennall. One aspect of their work is to cast the evil, the demons, out of people. It involves praying in tongues, a form of speech they believe to be divinely inspired.
Now, this is an alleged exorcism.
They fell down and there was none to help. They cried unto the Lord in their trouble.
Oh, will you shut
and he saved them out of their distresses. He brought them up out of darkness.
It was very difficult to keep in touch with the real Petra. She would often trance out, and one would find these demonic spirits speaking through her mouth.
He drives the Antichrist out.
Places where the creative power is, the places where the dreams are, the places where all the things that we have to deal with if we want to become whole, human, adult, deep human beings. And most people are afraid of that. And that's, I think, why, way down deep, they're afraid of witchcraft.
The procession of the candidates proceed right down into the ancient part of the castle till they reach the old dungeon. I think it's quite exciting. It's dramatic. Candidates for ordination.
This is the Fellowship of Isis. Still exists today.
I do.
Which goddess do you choose to follow?
I choose the goddess Selene.
I choose the goddess Isis.
With this holy oil, I ordain you both priestesses.
Universities, Dr. Michael Harner also has the unique advantage of having been personally initiated by South American Indians. He leads his students into a trance-like state from which the inner journey of the shaman can begin.
To journey
I made a journey to the upper world, and I visited my teacher. She took me up through her vagina, actually took me into her and took me into her belly. I could feel her get pregnant with me and felt her belly stretching. I felt myself inside her. I also felt her put her hands on top of her belly and how large it was.
Fear, guilt, anxiety. Keywords in the vocabulary of 20th century man. How do you banish these dark images from the soul?
I like women very much, but I'm afraid of sometimes. I'm afraid about suffering. Women make me often suffering so much.
The caves of Yanchep, Western Australia. Darkness transformed into light. An occult group gathers to perform an ancient Egyptian rite. If it were only facts that mattered, man now knows more about himself than he has ever known, and yet somehow he believes in himself less. There is a gap between what we know and what we feel. Many find that the occult can bridge that gap.
All right, let's talk about The Occult Experience. This is a movie that I had on a VHS tape. I think my Schlockmeister pal Jeff recorded this for me back around 1989 or so when I was still in school. And I think we may have seen an ad for this at the end of another tape or something, which inspired us to track this film down. I'll see. Oops, upside down. Ultimately, I think it was because Anton LaVey's participants in this participating in this film is actually what draws to us. We were familiar with him. We knew about the Church of Satan and this and that. We weren't Satan worshippers or anything like that, but nonetheless, we had some interest in the occult kind of stuff, so we were curious to track this movie down, and thus we did. What you see here is a documentary about the occult, just like it says. I think ultimately what this thing does, it shows us different occult aspects from across the country, across the globe, really. We see some satanic stuff in there. We see some Wiccan stuff, paganism, just all kinds of stuff that is just a little outside of the norm. But ultimately, I think this documentary movie here kind of portrays everything in a good way. It doesn't say it's bad or shameful or anything like that. It does show like some rituals or some nudity involved, candles, all that other black mass type of stuff, but it doesn't put down or degrade any of this stuff just because it's what a lot of people would think it is unusual. And of course, like I mentioned, it does feature an interview with Anton LaVey. It shows a little clip from a film that he did called, I think it was called Satanist, back in the late 60s as well. So yeah, there's that. We see some people getting initiated into whatever it is they're doing. It's got some interesting aspects, and that's pretty much what you got here. It's just a documentary. If it wasn't for the nudity, I think you could show this just on regular television, like it's a couple episodes of In Search of or something like that. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. I have a whole lot more to say about it. It's not available on DVD. It was released on VHS back in the 80s. I do have a pre-recorded VHS of this, and it was using that VHS that I burned my own copy here of it and made some nice homemade box art for it. It does say here on the box here, it's the winner of the Bronze Award of the 1985 International Film and Television Festival of New York. I tried to look up that festival to see if it's a real thing, and it actually is a real thing, but I couldn't find any information to verify whether this actually did win, I guess, 3rd place in 1985 for whatever it is. So, but anyway, it is an interesting little relic, and I'm glad I have it. Kind of falls in those realms of those other kind of documentaries like the Outer Space Connection, which I reviewed last week, although this is obviously more geared toward the occult for obvious reasons. So anyway, that's it. It's the Occult Experience. This movie was kind of sought after, as I recall, too, probably because of Anton LaVey's participants. And it's, other than that, it's not all that memorable, but it is an interesting little thing. So anyway, check it out. The Occult Experience. Let me know what you think about it. I'll leave a link down below if you want to purchase it on VHS on Amazon. I wouldn't be surprised you can find this streaming somewhere also. It's probably streaming on YouTube for all I know. But anyway, check it out. Leave some comments. It's the Occult Experience. Watch it if you dare. Bye.